Hi, welcome back to Review. It starts with the son of an Oakland Chinese gangster being at a black club called Silk's. The son's bodyguards, headed by Kai, show up and there's a lot of gunshots. The bodyguards, Kai, and the son called Po are asked to leave. Kai berates Po for going into an enemy club, but Po rolls his eyes and drives away. His body is found the next morning dead. The father, Chu Sing, finds out, as does his rival head of the Black Syndicate, Isaac O'Day. Han Sing, a skilled martial artist and former police officer who has been imprisoned in Hong Kong, learns of his brother's death and escapes. He travels to Oakland to investigate, where Cho is engaged in a joint business venture with Isaac O'Day. The two have been acquiring deeds to properties along the waterfront to sell to Vincent Roth, a business magnate who plans to buy a new NFL franchise and build a stadium. Despite Chow's assurances that their partnership remains intact, Isaac fears retribution following Po's death and as his chief lieutenant, Mac, place security details on his son Colin and his daughter Trish, the latter of whom refuses to be involved in her father's illegal activity. Trish and her bodyguard Maurice go to a record store together and Trisha runs away because she doesn't like her bodyguard. She jumps into a cab that Han has just stolen and then they drive away, except Han can't drive. Han breaks into his brother's glamorous high-rise apartment and finds out that the last number his brother dialed was that of Trish's store. Trish is then called to a diner to meet with Isaac's second-in-command, Mac, who warns her to be careful. Trish rolls her eyes and goes home and Han follows her home. He asks her about the phone call but she says she doesn't know what it's about. But then Maurice and some of his associates show up and immediately suspect Han of something, even though he presents himself as a dim sum delivery kid. A fight ensues, and Han wins. Han then steals Morris's SUV and leaves. Han then goes to his brother's funeral and confronts his father, Chu, about his brother's death. Chu refuses to even talk about his Po's death, so Han decides to talk to Kai. Kai informs Han that the Chinatown gangs and Isaac's gang are fighting over the waterfront properties, as both gangs want to own the NFL stadium. Later that night, Colin and his girlfriend are thrown out of the window of their high-rise apartment by someone mysterious and they both die. The next day, Han returns to his brother's apartment and finds it completely trashed. He then finds his brother's car with a list of addresses of waterfront properties. Going back to the apartment, Han finds Trisha, who tells him about Colin's death. They decide to work together to figure out the mysterious waterfront property list. They arrive at the first waterfront business, which is owned by a Chinese man, but he's been murdered, along with his co-workers. Han and Trish spot the assassins as they are motorcycling away, so they give chase. While fighting, Han discovers that the assassins are Chinese, which makes him worry. Han then informs his father, who dismisses it as a plot by Isaac to get even or one-up him on the waterfront properties. Meanwhile, Mac tortures a black waterfront property owner into handing over the property deed to him. Later, Cho is shown ordering the death of several other triad bosses to acquire their territories. Trish and Han visit the last holdout on Po's list, Silk's nightclub where Po was last seen. The duo meet with Silk, but Mac arrives and kills him for his deed, and then abducts Trish and Han. At a remote location, Han defeats Mac's henchmen led by Maurice and goes to rescue Trish. Isaac and Cho meet with Roth to sell him the deeds for the properties they now control. After Cho takes a multimillion-dollar payment and departs, Isaac refuses his payment, stating that his compensation will be in the form of an ownership share of the new franchise. An enraged Mac threatens Isaac to take the deal, using Trish as a hostage. He also reveals that the gang war was a ruse he and Cho concocted to cover their murder and intimidation of businessmen who refused to sign away their properties, and admits to killing Colin. In the ensuing shootout, Isaac is wounded while Roth escapes via helicopter, but Mac shoots Roth's briefcase out of his hand and the deeds scatter into the wind. Han arrives and confronts Mac about his brother, who reveals that it was the Chinese who killed Po, and is about to shoot Han when Trish shoots and kills Mac first. Trish waits with her father for an ambulance while Han leaves to find Cho. At the Singh compound, Kai admits he personally killed Po for interfering with Chow's dealings with Roth. Han engages Kai in a fist fight, and eventually kills him. Han berates his father for killing Po out of greed, and declares that he will leave him to be punished by either the police or the other triad families. This movie to me was really great. Trish and Han had great chemistry together and it was refreshingly not overly sexual. Give this a watch. And don't forget to subscribe.